Welcome to the Veterans Cafe Podcast, Episode 11. Welcome to the 11th episode. I'm Wes.
I'm Tracy.
And first of all, let us apologize for taking so long to get to this episode. Things have been crazy hectic for us with Tracy going out of town and my new job and everything. So we do apologize for that, but we're finally kind of getting back on track now. And today we actually wanted to talk a little bit about how we took, Tracy's hobby and turned it into a business, and it actually has helped us quite a bit.
Yeah, I know I've mentioned it before, and there's a biography out there, and there's like a photography podcast. So I'm not gonna bore everybody with all the details of it. We can just share the links if you haven't seen them already or heard them already. But what we really started doing was we started with like social media first, and of course my hobby was photography. So, one of the best ways to share a photo is through social media. So we started looking at social media, which is of course free, right? For the most part. And then we started looking at how to share and what was the best channel for us. Because, there's like so many channels, right? There's like Twitter and Instagram and Facebook, and there's even more than I don't even know of, I'm sure. So what we realized was that Facebook was the easiest for us to share photos. So we created a Facebook page first, and then my husband created a website, and then we just went through like friends and family, and then our friends and family shared things, and that worked really, really well for us.
Right, and even starting before that, it wasn't like we just had a bunch of money set aside that we just dumped into this thing and started investing into it, right? Because since it started as a hobby, it started really slowly. Remember, we got your first camera at a pawn shop.
Yeah.
We could barely afford it at the time. And then finally, later on down the road, we were able to get Photoshop, and you got into that. So it was just these slow little steps, one by one. And whatever your hobby may be, you can look at it the same way. It doesn't have to be some big investment. You don't have to have a huge chunk of money you can just throw at it at one time. We did it in small steps, and it just progressed from there. And that's when the whole social media thing started, right? And people started reaching out to you, and it started out just as friends. And then as we got better at marketing everything, even using just like Craigslist and stuff, we started getting a lot more calls, a lot more emails. And then the website went up, and eventually that's how I ended up getting into a little bit of web design. So that has also helped us make a little bit of money on the side. So it's definitely kind of a transition, right, from a hobby to a business. It doesn't have to be some big, huge jump that you make.
No, I agree. And you don't have to get a business loan, though certainly there are quite a few business loans out there. And there's a few of them out there that are geared towards veterans. So if that's something that, you want to do, definitely go for it. We just wanted to share the way that we did it. We did it as a really slow startup. It probably took us, like a year and a half to make a profit?
Yeah, I mean, it took us, we started that in like 2000, and I would say 2010 is about when it really kind of started moving in that direction.
Yeah.
And then you didn't stop working. I mean, we didn't get to a point until you felt comfortable to stop working until a year later, a year and a half or something like that.
Something like that, yeah.
So it was this slow sort of side thing that was happening, and we were making a little bit of money from it, and it actually was coming at a time when it actually came really in handy, that little extra money every month. And then finally, and then finally we got to a point to where you could just quit your job and you just started doing this thing full time and just tackling it head on. And that's actually when the bigger events started coming too, right? Like all the quinceañeras and the weddings and all that stuff. So
yeah, definitely. And the thing that's great about like all those big events that, like weddings specifically, I think it took us a while to realize how to charge for it and things like that. But I think that's one of those things that is relevant to like just any business, so I definitely always want to encourage everybody to pursue whatever their dreams are and whatever their passions are, because you just like never know where it's going to lead. I mean, mine started with like a phone, and I loved the apps, and, I'm very, very happy and proud to say that we have a business now. And, part of like that photography passion, led me to combat camera and so on. So I wouldn't have the experience of being a photographer with combat camera, and then, of course, just being a civilian one if I didn't, just go out there and do it. And we made a lot of mistakes. But if anybody has any like questions about how to get anything done, definitely contact us, because, we can show you what we know.
Yeah, for sure. Because this doesn't just apply to photography. You could be into knitting sweaters or something. and if that's what you like to do on the side, then it starts with something as simple as making a website and just making the services available to people out there who are looking for them for some reason or another.
Oh, no, I agree. I think one of the things that I learned on the way, like in the process of just starting our business was, I started off as a photographer, and my husband always teases me because I started off with the whole, wait, this isn't my vision. Wait, I have a feeling. This is my eye, And it was funny because he always teases me that I'm like this big diva, but one of the lessons that I learned on the way was, if you are shooting a photograph or some sort of like video, something for a client, it's what the client wants. It's not like what your eye wants. So that was one of those things that I had to learn on the way.
Yeah, that's definitely part of the transition from a hobby to a business, right? You're no longer doing this just because it makes you happy and, makes the way it makes you feel and everything. I mean, don't get me wrong. There are probably photographers and artists and everything out there who just continue to be that way their entire hobby or career, whatever they make it, and they're just like, oh, this is about what I want, it's about, they probably do stay that way. And that's fine, if you're going to take the artist route, just don't expect, for it to be like a huge business venture for you, because then you're not actually creating anything for consumers. You're creating it for yourself, and you're just kind of hoping that they like it too.
Yeah, that's not a bad thing, but that's not really, in my opinion, going to get you a lot of clients if you're just doing what you want. So I don't know. Like for me, I love black and whites. I love anything that has to do with black and white, all just different tones, what have you. But not every client likes it, so I can't do that. That's just kind of the example.
Right. So if you love knitting green sweaters and your clients want pink sweaters, you're going to have to buy some new thread. It's just, or yarn. It's just the way it is, So if you want to turn it into a business, you're definitely going to have to make those changes, and they're going to be difficult. I can tell you right now that my wife and I, when we were going through this whole process, there was some pushback, right? Because I would tell you, look, I know that you're, really artistic with your photos and everything, but your clients are going to want more professional, even almost more corporate looking photos, because that's, people rarely see themselves that way. So that's what they want on their wall or wherever they're going to use them. And that's hard for anybody to accept, the idea that you can't do things really the way that you want to, but that's any business, you're there to cater for whoever your consumers are. So it's a little bit of a transition depending on whatever your hobby is now and what business you want to make out of it. So
yeah, the other thing I think is important with like any business is just customer service. I mean, I'm older and we've talked about it before. And, I grew up in a time when customer service was just like a huge part of every business. And unfortunately, for whatever reason, customer service is lacking. And I think everybody can, see that or probably admit to that to some degree in their lives. So I know for my husband and I, customer service was one of those things that, oh my God, we bent over backwards for people like right at the very beginning. And I think that was a huge reason of why it's paid off for us. And we still continue to. It's not like we don't now, but I know that was a huge focus for us, and I think that helped.
Yeah, and also I think that getting into the whole marketing part of it was a little bit of tough for us too. I don't think that we always made the best decisions, and so we had to take different approaches and things like that. And then also, of course, with the building the website and making the Facebook page and all, and how then if you're actually going to spend money on advertising and all that kind of stuff, it's, then you're pouring money into this thing. So if you're not doing it correctly, you can end up losing money without ever having the clients to show for it. So specifically about that, if that's your next step, if you have some kind of hobby and you're looking to turn it into a business and you want to know more about the online prospects of it, then reach out to us, because that's how we started it. I got into all kinds of books. I started just Googling, watching tutorials, and a lot of those tutorials, a lot of them, even though they will teach you basics, some of them actually make assumptions or just assume that you know certain things already. So there were things that I had to kind of dabble around and figure out for myself, because a lot of tutorials and things like that don't go that in depth. So if you want some resources and you want to start learning how to do web design on your own, which it's really easy. It's not hard at all. I mean, if you have a hobby and you're about to turn it into a business, then the chances are you already have a pretty creative eye. So I imagine you might not have too much trouble designing your own website. You just need to know the coding part of it. So if you need to know, you want some resources, things like that, any kind of even specific help with certain things, then you can email us and reach out to us, and I can give you help with any of that kind of stuff. Search engine optimization, creating advertisements on Facebook or Google AdWords or anything like that. So we can definitely help you out with that.
One of the things I just want to mention that kind of just goes into like, pursuing your passion and your hobby is you just never know where it's going to take you, right? Because like mine took me to combat camera, and of course I love that. But it, my husband and I also, one of the things that's like near and dear to our heart is just, like animal rescue. And, because, animal compassion is like huge to us. And, our pets have always been rescued. And I don't know, one of the things that just happened very recently was someone reached out to us because they want to create a calendar, for a homeless shelter that they work in. And, I immediately said yes, right?
A homeless shelter?
Well, an animal homeless shelter. Oh, I guess it does sound like, well, this is an animal rescue shelter, well, homeless animals. So, that's so funny. But I don't know. One of the things that I think is so awesome is because we pursued the passion, right? And the passion led to the business. This person realized that, wow, Tracy and Wes kind of know what they're doing when it comes to photography and video. So why don't I ask them? And I was really, really pleased to get a message on Facebook saying, what do I have to do? Like, what do I have to pay you? And I was like, absolutely nothing. We're going to go. So then, of course, I mentioned it to my husband later, like, can we go?
And at which point I actually pretended like I was sitting there thinking it over because I'm the one in charge here, and then gave her the inevitable yes because I'm not, totally in charge. We're a team, so But I have to create that illusion that I'm in charge because I'm the man. Somebody else might be watching. We could have a stalker outside the window, and if one thing is for certain, they need to know I'm in charge around here. All right. Whether it's a homeless shelter or a pet rescue shelter.
There you go. So we'll share more details of that, but that's coming up, and that's in the second weekend of May, and it's in Louisiana, so we'll give you more details soon, and we'll share their links and things like that. But we're going to create a calendar, and I believe that there's going to be firemen. The fire department, I believe, has like signed on, and they're going to let us like shoot animals and firemen in the fire trucks, and it's going to be pretty fun. And then we're also going to do like a little behind the scenes video, so that way people can share that on YouTube. And of course, the calendar that we're shooting is, it's going to go for charity. So we'll give all those details soon. But I just want to say it's one of those things, right? Wouldn't have happened, if you didn't go after your passion. So
right, yeah, and it's probably important to note that, something like this is probably not something you want to dive head first into if this is still a hobby for you. If this hasn't become something that you've totally invested your time in, then something like this could actually be difficult for you, especially, we're doing it for free. So, if it's something that's going to
equipment now, so we're lucky, right?
Right. Yeah. And that's another thing for us. Something that we didn't do for a long time, which is because it was a hobby, we didn't think to start tracking like the cost and how much money was coming in. And, because it was just something that Tracy was doing on the side, and we weren't really, we weren't looking at where this thing was going to go. So eventually we got to a point to where I actually started tracking how much money she was taking in, how much money we were spending on equipment, and then we finally saw when we were breaking even, and then we finally saw when she was actually making profit. And so make sure you're keeping track of that kind of stuff. If you don't know anything about accounting, anything about record keeping, anything like that, I can tell you right now, first of all, if you're still in the Army actually offers some really good courses. They're a bit long, a little dry, of course, like any other online Army course, but they really get you into the details of accounting and business and things like that. And they actually count as promotion points. You can actually print those out and put them in your packet, and they'll be promotion points for you. So you can actually learn quite a bit from that. But if you're not in the Army anymore and you don't have access to that kind of stuff, then you can still, again, reach out to us, and we'll point you towards some resources where you can actually learn a little bit about business bookkeeping, accounting, things like that, which you're going to have to look at in terms of your taxes, because we have to file with our taxes every year. We actually get income statements from the services that we use, like SmugMug and all those other services, so we actually have to file that as well. So if you need help with that, then just reach out to us. We'll point you in the right direction.
The other thing we wanted to mention is, oh my goodness, right? Who has not been following Noah Galloway by now? Like, I cannot wait to get him on the show, and he's been busy, and, I know he's going to do it. It's just obviously with his schedule, and wow, right?
Yeah, so I've been on the phone with him a couple times, and I've talked to Noah about having him on the podcast, but the reason he was so busy and he couldn't announce it until I think last week, He's actually going to be on Dancing with the Stars on
so crazy. March 16th.
March 16th. He's going to be dancing with Sharna Burgess, and that'll be on March 16th, and it looks pretty cool. He's actually been posting on his Facebook page that he's got like these little clips of their rehearsals and stuff like that, and them kind of messing around. So that looks like it's going to be a lot of fun to watch.
And Dancing with the Stars, I'm sure everyone but me is like aware of this because I've never seen the show before, but I will certainly be watching March 16th. It's like a voting campaign. And on Twitter, Noah's on Twitter a lot, and there's I believe it's called Team Shalloway. So definitely look for Noah on Twitter, and definitely start liking and sharing that hashtag, because I believe that's going to be part of like how you're going to help him vote and help him win.
Do people vote on that show? I mean, I don't ever watch it, so I don't know how.
I believe that everything comes to do with voting. But regardless, on Twitter, you definitely want to find him on Twitter until we get more information. But it's I believe it's Team Shalloway. But of course, like I said, if you're not following Noah by now, definitely please follow him.
Oh yeah, it does. Excuse me. It is Team Shalloway.
Yeah. I liked it the other day, but you were busy, so.
Okay. Yeah, so definitely check that out. March 16th, Dancing with the Stars. I'm not even sure what channel that comes on. I think I said it was ABC earlier.
Yeah. We'll figure that out. We'll put it on the bottom on the comment section. But regardless, if you follow Noah, right, then you'll figure it out. But regardless, we'll put it in the comments.
And so we're also speaking of that, we're also trying to line up a few more people to have on the podcast so that we can have a few more shows for you. We apologize that it's been a bit hectic. We might actually cut it down to maybe 1 or 2 podcasts a week so we don't have such a difficult time trying to keep up with it. Yeah,
I mean, I'm going out of town again, and this is rare. I don't normally do this much traveling, but there are a couple people, like there's a food, person that a lot of people may know that, is going to, I still can't believe he's going to be on the podcast. And then there's the other individual that I don't even know how to describe him, but there's just amazing of how many people that are going to have committed to interviews. So please stay with us because I think it'll be very interesting for you.
Yeah, and so the last thing, I was completely lazy the last time my wife was gone. And I was supposed to do like a biography for myself and everything, and I never did it. So
what?
My wife now, she actually wants to do sort of a video interview.
Behind the scenes.
There we go, behind the scenes kind of thing. So we're going to do a little behind the scenes kind of thing. You guys can see our little podcast set up here and all that good stuff. And
I'm going to create a little video. And in the video, I'm going to show some photos of my husband's from Iraq. And oh my gosh, he looked like he was 7 years old. So cute.
Speaking of which, it's funny that you said that because when I was actually, I don't know if I remember if I mentioned this or not, but when I was watching some video with Noah in it, and he was on like Fox and Friends or something, they showed a bunch of pictures.
And you were in there?
Yeah.
Oh, my husband's famous.
Famous. I don't know. Actually, I think the other guy in the photo was famous, and I just happened to be in the photo. But that's okay.
Well, anyway, so we'll definitely get that out to you very soon. I'm going to start working on that this week.
Yeah, and so if you guys have an opportunity, like we said in the past, head on over to iTunes or Stitcher and write us a review. If you want to reach out to us, like I said, we can point you in the right direction for any of these resources you might need. Talking about business, web design, any of that kind of stuff. You can email us at themax@vetscafe.com, or you can just head over to our website, vetscafe.com, and you can find a little contact place there where you can just click on it. You can also actually send us Skype messages. You can find us on Skype. It's also Vets Cafe. So, and there's a link on our website to that as well. So if you'd like to get in the midst of a chat on Skype, you can just click the button. It'll let you send us a message and just let us know that you heard us through the podcast. That way we know you're not like some spammer. And we have no problem chatting with you and giving you any information you might need.
So the shelter that I mentioned is St. Martin Shelter in St. Martinsville, Louisiana. And of course, it's Team Shalloway. All the way.
So thanks again for listening to another episode of the Veterans Cafe podcast. I'm Wes.
I'm Tracy.
And we'll see you next time.
Bye!